Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jared. I'm head of product marketing here at Hypertrack, and I'm joined with Ram, who's head of product. Today, we're going to discuss order fulfillment in an on-demand world. Of course, this is a topic near and dear to everyone here who's involved with order fulfillment and operational efficiency for last mile. So we'll start with what is on demand. We'll talk about how Hypertrack helps. We'll go through some sample workflows, product updates, and then we'll conclude with questions. But of course, we want this to be interactive. So if you have any questions in the midst of the conversation here, feel free to raise your hand or ask the question in the chat, and we'll catch that in real time. So let's go ahead and get started. What is on demand? So we know that on-demand expectations color the retail environment lately. It really is a expectation that customers have when they order something. They expect something to get delivered momentarily, sometimes minutes, sometimes hours, or depending on the good or service, it might be a day or two out. But in any case, that expectation really colors how consumers work with retailers, and it will definitely, the customer loyalty will definitely suffer if these demand expectations aren't met. And that's in a drive scenario as well. If drivers aren't dispatched to have success in delivering on-demand orders, then they have negative experience with consumers and customers. Sometimes it only takes one missed delivery expectation or one unfulfilled promise, and the customer loyalty will be impacted, and customers will cease to do business with particular companies because of this. So we know that this on-demand fulfillment really depends on the context. So if we're talking about food delivery, this could mean momentarily, as soon as possible, basically minutes. Grocery delivery, it could be within hours, maybe same day. And even these very short time frame use cases are coming up with grocery delivery as well. When it comes to service, the context here is that, again, there's a high expectation for happen with a very clear estimated time. And when these services or goods don't get delivered within that time frame, then customers are definitely impacted. So maybe you can talk, Ram, about some of the complexity that you're noticing out there that Hypertrack helps with.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with that context, I think what it means from a logistics tech building standpoint, you have a whole host of different types of customer promises that are being made in the market, where it could be same day, next day, right now, could be scheduled many days later. And that adds complexity to the logistics tech workflows, because now you need to figure out when to run your planning workflows, when to run your assignment workflows. How do you enable live tracking so that customers don't need to reach out to your ops team to track their orders? And broadly speaking, this basically the complexity explodes into 4 touch points from a logistics tech standpoint. You have the fulfillment management systems where all the workflows are managed. And so now you need to have workflows to manage scheduled and on-demand orders in one workflow. On-demand, again, can have varying levels of SLA. And so you need to figure out how you can modify scheduled orders with an on-demand workflow. Traditional package solutions that are not API first will typically not let you get that much flexibility to build your own workflow. And so that becomes a challenge. You also might need to plan and replan your routes to optimize your cost and figure out what your SLA adherence is going to look like. And again, this adds cost uncertainties, because every time you plan a route, you add to your cost structure, and that can increase your per order cost to impact unit economics. And you finally need to find nearby drivers for assignment, because typically for on-demand, for managing a gig worker economy where drivers are coming in and out as they please, you want to know which drivers are actually in the moment based on live location available to fulfill an order the fastest, quickest. And you also need to adjust your live routes with on-demand orders. So lots of complexity on the fulfillment management system in and of itself. Then you come to the operations systems where ops managers need to know which orders are tracking correctly, which orders are at risk and need to be actioned. They need easy actioning from a UI or whichever mechanism they have. And it needs to be easy for you to do this. You want to automate distance calculations typically, because driver payouts usually happen by distance in the gig work economy. And drivers, like we saw earlier, the high churn rate shows that they're looking for a good experience, and automatic payouts after jobs are done can be one way to differentiate yourself. So that becomes complex. You also want to compute your automated metrics for efficiency of fulfillment, figure out if the addresses where your orders are being fulfilled are correct or not, to know if you know the right location of your customers. On the driver app side, that's one of the bigger challenges that folks face. Balancing live location accuracy, the battery efficiency, and real timeness of location is extremely challenging. And building that in-house can be a long sort of rabbit hole that a lot of our customers have told us has been extremely complex and non-core for them to focus on. So that's one challenge. And finally, tracking workers who are available for work versus actually working. I think you need different grains of tracking to, again, manage your cost structure as well as your battery utilization of the gig worker. So all these things become complexity on the driver's side. And finally, ultimately, you want to give a good experience to your end consumer. And so providing a realistic delivery promise, providing a live order tracking experience to them so they don't have to reach out to your ops team, and then building custom views that your business might require for a good customer experience are all things that you need to focus on for the consumer app. So these are the kinds of challenges that come up when you see such a wide range of customer requirements. And yeah, I think Hypertrack is here to help with all of them.
Got you. So in terms of mitigating some of the complexity that you mentioned, how does Hypertrack specifically address those four components?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we've mapped out our product to the key touch points in a fulfillment system. And that's why you see, four components here: the API, the ops dashboard, the driver app, and consumer app. Our customers can choose to choose which features to adopt and in what form. And we've made it very easy for them to kind of build out their own logistics tech workflow for their business. So on the API side, for the on-demand space, you have the assignment APIs where you figure out either from a nearby API, you find nearby drivers to assign an order to, or you use the routing API, which is currently in beta, for scheduled order assignment. And both of these combine to form the first leg, which is the planning leg of your fulfillment. After you've dispatched an order, you need to get into the tracking aspect of it. And so you have live order tracking APIs, geofences API, and geotags as the features that you can use for live order tracking. Each of these has different nuances depending on the use case and the business priorities. You can figure out which one to use. And all of these APIs essentially send back webhooks to stream events that businesses can use to make simple IFTTT workflows, like if this then that, which makes it super easy to get up your logistics workflow right out, like in short time. Now, again, to support the ops side of the business, we have scoreboards, insights, and map views to let your ops managers review live ops and deep dive into KPIs historically, to review how you're performing historically and see if any KPI needs a deep dive. You can also embed these views in your own dashboard, so you don't have to use our dashboard if you already have one, which your ops managers are used to. You can just embed the views there and let them operate in their own environment. On the driver app side, we have our SDK, and we also have the Visits app for customers who don't have their own mobile driver app. Our SDK is available on native and hybrid app frameworks, so whichever tech you choose, you can build with us. And we have different methods for you to track your drivers who are available for work versus working, again, to manage the battery efficiency and accuracy of tracking. And yeah, from a consumer app standpoint, we make it super easy for you to share live order tracking with consumers to reduce ops costs. They don't have to reach out to your ops manager. Every contact save is a good customer experience. And you can also build your custom views using our Views SDK to be creative in how you expose the data and let your customers use it.
Got it. Yeah, that foundation is definitely helpful in terms of understanding how these APIs help folks in the field. Maybe you can explain a couple of recent features that give a little more nuance and specifics to the API platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've spoken about the Nearby API, which lets customers search for nearby drivers. We launched that and got a great customer feedback, have a ton of customers using it. We've now made it even more powerful with two versions of Nearby API based on feedback. So we now have a region-based Nearby API and an ETA-based Nearby API. What region and ETA basically do is they give you different types of results depending on what you're trying to solve for. So the region-based Nearby API essentially looks for drivers near your order destination, and it sorts them based on proximity using the haversign distance, or the distance as a crow flies. So it's a very light and fast way to search for a large number of drivers who are relevant for work or particular order and can be considered as candidates. The ETA-based Nearby API gives you a smaller set of drivers, but sorts them based on drive time ETA using real traffic, live traffic. So if you really want to make a customer promise about when an order is going to be fulfilled by a particular driver in the area, you need to have live traffic to make that promise reasonable. And so that's what the ETA-based Nearby search does for you. So yeah, I think these are the two ways in which you can get results. You can get a large set of results really quickly using region-based search, and you can get a very targeted set of results sorted on live traffic using ETA.
Awesome. Thanks for walking through that. And let's cover driver availability.
Sure. Yeah, so through our sort of experience working with customers, we found that in the gig worker economy, the typical life cycle of a session would be that a driver would check in at some point of time whenever they're ready to accept orders, and then they'd actually get assigned work at a later point in time when a relevant order comes in and they accept it. Now, tracking is important in both scenarios, but tracking at the same fidelity is not. And especially in the scenario where a driver is available for work but not actively working on anything, you don't need to track the places they visited. You don't need to track where they stopped. You don't need to track the distance they've traveled. All these things are required when they're doing work for you because it's in the context of work. But when they're simply available for work, you need their live location only for the purpose of assigning a nearby order, and everything else can be ignored. So we made it very easy for you to define that in your workflow whenever they're available for work. And this also has privacy implications because customer drivers, while they're making themselves available for work, are not actively working, and so they may not want to share what places they're visiting and things like that. So the availability method that we've launched in the SDK now lets you track drivers who are available for work in a different way by making them available. And Hypertrack will intelligently collect their location and make sure that whenever you get a nearby order, we use a fresh location from them and get the latest location to actually calculate the distance or ETA for them to that order. And whenever they start working, we'll level up the tracking to the real tracking for work, where we can calculate distance, show you their timeline in the maps, and etc. So you'll get the full functionality of work tracking as you normally would. And this helps, again, balance costs and manage privacy concerns and manage battery utilization for drivers as well.
Got it. Yeah, so it's clear that these APIs and solutions that our customers are using are really built specifically for these on-demand, these last mile use cases, which are very nuanced, and it's important that we're down to that workflow level that customers are able to benefit from versus having to kind of spin the cycles and catering this technology to their environment themselves. So I think that is definitely what we've noticed from customers that we have now. Folks can go to the website to take a closer look at these testimonials. But here with our customer in Colombia, they were able to 10x the number of services that they provided due to using Hypertrack to build trust with that customer base, so that they had more visibility and understanding when their service orders would be completed and where the vehicle was during the order servicing process. And our customer Joe Box here, I mean, they were definitely able to implement these live location and logistics solutions very quickly in the gig work context, where they're able to dispatch workers in a very fast manner to kind of build trust with their driver base, as well as ensure that customers were aware or are aware of where workers are in process and in progress of servicing their vehicle. I think is what they're doing there. These kind of real time, almost emergency scenarios. And then, of course, our customer in Germany, Magalu, they're able to kind of put together this end-to-end order processing platform based on HyperTrack, kind of showing visibility to consumers as well as retailers. So it's good to see these some of what you mentioned, Ram, kind of implemented in reality, and see how these solutions are making an impact for customers in the field. Maybe you can cover some example workflows and just kind of talk about what you're seeing out there lately.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're seeing a lot of innovative workflows being built using our tech, and just want to walk through a couple of them very high level. So yeah, I mean, the first one is order assignment to nearby drivers. I think that one's fairly clear and vanilla. I mean, an order comes up, you want to find a nearby driver, you do a nearest driver either by ETA or by a region, and you basically allocate the order to the nearest one. So simple, plain vanilla use case. Companies that are starting up and don't have a lot of sophistication built into their systems can use this to get started right out of the, simplest way, simplest, fastest time to market. As you get more mature in a company, you'll typically realize that they'll have, driver profiles which have very nuanced capabilities and things like that, and things like balancing out earnings across a gig worker team, et cetera. And so then they want to be more selective in how they, allocate drivers. They might have very specific skills or ratings that they want to incorporate into the driver allocation, and that's all proprietary logic. So what they can do in that case is basically use the region-based search, and that's the second box here, which is filtered driver selection with live traffic-based ETA. So they can do a region-based search for the order and get all candidate drivers in the area. And then they can whittle that down to whichever ones are the most relevant based on their internal proprietary logic, and send that back for an ETA-based search to do only the top 8 who are close based on actual drive time ETA, and then make a much more realistic promise to the end customer about when their order is going to be fulfilled. The interesting other use case we're seeing is a combination of on-demand driver assignment and scheduled routing. So the previous 2 examples were very clearly, on-demand orders, but we're also seeing scheduled routes sort of blend into the gig worker on-demand economy. The way it works is that if you have a scheduled route for, let's say the workflow of the company is that they run all their routes by 5 p.m. in the evening today for tomorrow morning. So they'll create their routes and show them to their ops managers, but they won't actually assign a driver yet. The ops managers will approve the routes and everything's going to be fine and locked and loaded. And then let's say routes are expected to start by 7 a.m. tomorrow. At 6:30, they'll do a nearby search for each route and find the actual driver who's logged in and is available and is close by to the order and can pick it up. And so that basically helps them, imbibe all the gig workers really well. It also prevents them from having to do any driver scheduling changes and things like that, where, drivers said they were going to be available at 7, but they're not now. And so now they have to scramble and find a new driver. It's simply based on live location, and it's much simpler and beautiful to use. So that's another interesting innovation we're seeing, which is combining the power of scheduled routes with on-demand driver assignment.
Nice. Yeah, that's interesting to see that blended use case of adding these on-demand orders to scheduled workflows. Maybe you can cover some of the recent product updates. I know we mentioned a couple of them already, but maybe you can touch on some of the analytics and mobile updates that we recently pushed to the platform.
Yeah, sure. So we talked about nearby search and managing driver availability earlier, so I'll skip through those. But yeah, we launched the ability. Like I said, all of our APIs give you data, and you can always use our summary APIs to get specific parts of your work analysis. We launched a feature now that lets you do specific analysis of timeframes on a trip. So, for example, if your worker had a gig from 10 to 12, but they started the trip at 9 o'clock to get there on time, and you only want to look at 10 to 12 or maybe 11 to 12 if that's when there was a complaint or that's when you're trying to verify something, then you can actually get the summary for that very specific time frame and use that for your remediation or discussions or analysis to improve your efficiencies. So that's been a high demand feature that we've launched now. The new Android SDK is much smaller in size, and it also does a much better job of tracking outages and restarting tracking when outages are resolved. So, much better functionality overall for customers. And I think a really exciting feature we're working on right now is the orders lifecycle API, which will basically combine the ability to manage orders in one API. It's going to include the route optimization and planning, the assignment to drivers, and the tracking for the order till the fulfillment's complete, and summarization of that for you all at one endpoint. So it's going to be a super simple API, and it's also going to give you per order pricing, which is how Hypertrack makes it easy for you to, again, have simple APIs with per order price predictability.
Awesome. Thanks for walking through that. I'm wondering if we have any questions right now, if any of the attendees have any questions. I did have one question, Ram, in the meantime, and this is related to the nearby API. Are there any specific use cases you can mention in terms of industries or companies, maybe business models that are benefiting from this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the emergency services businesses like, drivers, I mean, if a customer, for example, end consumer locks themselves out of their car and they're stranded on the road, they are in an urgent scenario of needing help. And, we have businesses that are catering to such emergency use cases. Similarly, the grocery delivery is, of course, a good one where, on-demand grocery delivery is or food delivery are both use cases we're catering to right now.
Got it. Cool. That definitely makes sense. And then one last question I have is about the roadmap. So you mentioned that you're adding this orders lifecycle API to manage planning and assignment and fulfillment, of course, of orders. I'm wondering if there are any specific customer scenarios that you noticed that have popped up that made this kind of rise to the top of the roadmap.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the issues our customers face is that when they're getting their order book for scheduled orders, the time at which they should plan it is kind of unclear because, there are a couple of things that they're trying to balance. One is they want to continually know which driver slots are free to accept more orders so that when a consumer is trying to book a slot or delivery or a fulfillment slot, they know where they have spare capacity. So you have to continually run your planning to figure out when there is capacity. And so what that does is, in theory, you could run planning every time you get an order, but then every planning cycle is a cost to you in current state. So Hypertrack is going to make that super easy for you, where you can, continually run your plan and replan as needed at the order level. We won't. We want to keep it simple, where all that is internally managed. And you can plan and replan as needed to manage the most efficient operation that you need to, and then of course the assignment and fulfillment is all part of the game there. Yeah,
sure, got it. So it's definitely kind of answering this question around building for flexibility, but also structure and predictability. So that's kind of a key component of the last mile delivery and completing orders in an on-demand environment. So we're coming up on 30 minutes. If there aren't any more questions, I think we can wrap it up here. Unless there's anything else, I'll just close with saying thank you, everyone, for joining, and thanks, Ram, for walking us through this. I will definitely, share this recording with everyone. So looking forward to getting that out. But in the meantime, thanks again for attending.
Thank you. Okay, Sumangal, do you have a question or?
Looks like it was an emoji. So
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
doing the hand clap. So
Sure.
I'll second that hand clap. And
Yeah.
thanks again, Ron.
Thank you.